welcome to the Champs-Élysées Film Festival. So today we are with Josh and Benny Safdie, two young independent filmmakers from New York. They are the guests of honor for this fourth edition of the festival with a retrospective of their work. And we're having the event premiere, the French event premiere of Heaven Knows What, and the carte blanche. So, how was the presentation of your screening yesterday?
The presentation was good. We had to leave during the screening, but it was it's nice seeing the film on film, with the French subtitles. I haven't seen that film in a theater in a while, so.
So let's talk about this carte blanche. Why did you choose those movies?
We chose a lot of films.
Originally we chose like 10, and then they told us we had to whittle it down because there was just certain ones that were not available or that had played recently.
I wish I could stay here I wish I could see Fat City, because it's nice to show our films, but it's great to show other films as well. I think we ended up picking like 2 French films, and I know we picked 2 French and 2 American. And yeah, it's funny. I think we picked 2 of the most kind of 70s French, films that I mean, We Won't Grow Old Together. I mean, it's a masterpiece. And PLI. Every time I think of PLI, I think of the story about the stories from Cannes for that film. Cassavetes, obviously, for us is a kind of a hero and a king in America, and he's kind of like the French Cassavetes in many regards. He's also a complete lark, and he does things on his own.
It's funny, there were a lot of films that we asked to play because we wanted to see them, and they don't play very often, but we were told they play here quite often. And like, oh, that showed last week, so we can't show that.
Oh yeah, well, Sorcerer was on our list.
Yeah.
And then they were like, well, actually, William Friedkin will be another guest of honor. And then I had the opportunity to share time with him yesterday.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
he's a monster of cinema.
He told me a great story about Howard Hawks and how he met Howard Hawks. He was dating his daughter, Hawks' daughter, and he met him right after he made Boys in the Band. It's his first movie, and it's very much like a filmed play. It's good. I like it. I like it a lot. And that's the only movie he had made, and he said to Howard Hawks, he's like, hey, what do you do, young man? He said to Billy Friedkin. He's like, oh, I'm a filmmaker. He goes, oh, yeah, you make any movies? And he said, yeah, I have a new film. It just came out recently. Oh, what's it about? He goes, it's about a bunch of gay guys who are celebrating someone's birthday. And he goes, don't make pictures like that. That's what Howard Hawks told Billy Friedkin, yeah. And he didn't give me advice when he asked me what Heaven Knows What was about. And I told him, oh, it's about a bunch of dope addicts struggling on the streets to kind of, fighting love and their addiction and the moment of now. And he didn't say don't make movies like that. He actually said, sounds like a great movie. So,
what are, I don't know, your favorite filmmakers or films that influenced your work mainly?
What is an influence? An influence means something that is kept in mind while creating something new. In that regard, there was no influences on Heaven Knows What. Okay. I mean, the only influence was Arielle Holmes, the lead actress and the woman who wrote her book.
It's not referential cinema in that sense. There are people who make movies to reference other films. That's not what we're doing. Midnight Cowboy, that's an influence, but it's like these are things that we realize after the fact. It's almost like you see all these films and they kind of come into your brain, but we're not consciously going out of our way to reference them. The movies spur from where they come from, and it's all about that.
But the main source is real life. So this explains a little bit the documentary-like feeling of your films.
We took a class with a professor, Ted Barron, and he teaches at Notre Dame now. He had a class called Pseudo-Documentary in Film, and it was like he was trying it out, he was testing it, and he was showing us all these documentaries from the 60s and the 70s, and then he would also show us films that were fake documentaries. He would call them pseudo-documentaries. These are movies that are fake, but they feel very real. And there was something about that that was very exciting to us. There were all these movies that were very emotional, and yet they were emotional because they felt real, but they weren't real, and you weren't sure where that line was. And that, for us, was a big turning point.
This is why you usually work with
First-time actors?
Yes, non-professional actors.
Yeah, I mean, we prefer to work with real people as we go on in our careers. It's, you know, and the budgets become bigger and bigger. We're always going to probably return to films of like smaller sizes in order to enable us the freedom to cast, you know, commercially unviable types. That's where film becomes like a documentary, is when you meet an actor and you're inspired by them and they happen to be a movie actor who people have seen in many other movies before. You want to meet them and you want to as a person read them and understand and see a part of them that maybe movies haven't explored yet, or it's like not, you want to document a part of their kind of personality.
A new part of their personality.
How do you work with these known actors?
I mean, you get very close to them, as you would with anybody. It's a very physical experience. You know, you really, because they don't have any, I mean, you spend the first week of shooting and rehearsals kind of trying to share any knowledge that you have about acting, and you're basically trying to build a machine that can eventually operate 30% on autopilot, and then you're coming in and you're giving, you know, another 30% of a direction, and then the other 40% is left to chance.
The difference when you're acting with a professional or a first-time professional is they can kind of incorporate without the physicality. You can tell them the emotions that they want, and they'll be able to internalize that quicker than somebody who hasn't had that kind of time as an actor. But eventually, those first-time actors are actors, and then you're surprised by their ability to do the same thing. So.
And what about the characters that you talk about in your movies, because they look like slices of life of the main character, some sort of portrait. So, well, how come that you get inspired by a character? How do you pick a story of a single character?
I will say that when you see somebody walking on the street and then you then follow them from that point on, that's kind of, it's interesting not knowing anything about them and having to learn. So that's, in a way, that's how we kind of, that's what feels like a slice of life, but that's how you move through life. You don't know about somebody until you meet them. So
I'm interested in characters who are not self-conscious, if that makes any sense.
Failing is very human, you know, and trying and failing, it's like, you can't get any closer to the core of what makes you a person in that sense. So,
as does winning.
Yeah, they're those two extremes, you know, like trying is very hard and then even succeeding. It's both of those extremes, and it's just kind of looking at human beings, I don't know, and what makes you tick, and I don't know, it's very hard to get at it, but.
How do you work together?
We argue, and that's part of the process.
You know what you want when you have to argue for it.
For the most part, yeah, we work together as help balancing each other out.
On this past film, we developed a new technique, which was, and this is a technical aspect, because I was very close with a lot of the characters in the film, and I had spent months knowing them, and they all knew me as a friend and not a filmmaker. I was the point person. I was the person doing most of the direction, giving them the direction. But because Benny was running the sound, he could hear everybody's lavalier mic. He could hear everyone's microphone. And when he would hear me go and give direction, I had monitors to the sound recorder, wireless feed to what he was recording. So he could hear what I was saying to each director, to each actor. Yeah. And if I was missing a point, he could lower the boom microphone down and talk directly into the mic, and I would hear it from the feed. and then I would be doing the direction, and I would be able to seamlessly work in his additions, which was a completely new thing that we developed, you know, unprovoked and unthought. It was just something, you know, kind of improvised.
Yeah, it was out of necessity. It was out of necessity.
I don't know. It ended up being quite emblematic of the way we try to work, which is to be this kind of conjoined brain.
Yes. While,
even though we're both so different and we both have different sensibilities, when we're working, we try to like look to those differences.
What kind of, let's say, curious or unexpected advice would you give to young filmmakers? There's
a saying in the casinos, in like the sports books and all the casinos of America and the world. You can't, in order to win big, you have to bet big, and that's the only thing I have continually, and probably will until we're likely at a comfortable place, which means we're at the wrong place. You always want to be uncomfortable. You always want to be doing things that you're not even sure they will succeed. You want to be achieving to basically be number one and expect or accept nothing less. And in order to do that, you have to like put everything on the line. So on a monetary level, it's like in America, you take out a credit card and you max out that credit card and you make a movie that only you could make. Exploit your interests, exploit your feelings, exploit your heart, and exploit your economic scenario around you. If you can make something, if you can steal something and you know how to steal it and get away with it, you do that.
Enough is enough.
Yeah, shut this fucking thing off. Get this shit out of here.